My neighbor called me in a panic. "Come back immediately! Your son is taking all the furniture out of your house right now!" I rushed out of the hospital room and arrived in 15 minutes. When I entered my bedroom, I saw empty walls and his face. He turned pale. "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Margaret Thompson, but everyone calls me Maggie. For 43 years, I lived in the same 3-bedroom colonial house on Maple Street, the house where I raised my son Jason, the house where my late husband Robert and I built our entire life together. After Robert passed 5 years ago, that house became even more precious to me. Every corner held a memory. Every piece of furniture told a story. I had always been healthy, active, independent. I gardened. I volunteered at the local library. I hosted Sunday dinners. But last October, I started feeling unusually tired. The doctors found something concerning during my annual checkup, a suspicious mass that required immediate attention. Within 2 weeks, I was admitted to St. Mary's Hospital for surgery and treatment. Jason seemed concerned when I told him. He visited me the day before my surgery, holding my hand, promising everything would be fine. "Don't worry about the house, Mom," he said. "Vanessa and I will check on it every day. We'll water your plants, collect your mail. You just focus on getting better." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my son, my only child. The surgery went well, but the recovery was slower than expected. The doctors wanted to keep me for observation, run more tests, monitor my progress. Days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. I called Jason regularly. He always sounded busy, distracted. "Everything's fine at the house, Mom. Don't stress about it." But something felt wrong. Maybe it was a mother's intuition. Maybe it was the way he rushed me off the phone. Maybe it was how Vanessa never came to visit, not once, even though the hospital was only 20 minutes from their apartment. When I asked Jason about her, he said she was dealing with some things and very stressed. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Harold Martinez, my neighbor of 15 years. His voice was shaking. "Maggie, I don't know how to tell you this, but you need to come home. Right now." My heart stopped. "What happened? Is there a fire?" No, it's Jason. He's at your house right now with a moving truck. Maggie, they're taking everything. Your furniture, your belongings, they're loading it all into a truck. I tried to ask him what was going on, but he told me to mind my own business. I'm watching him carry out your dining room table right now. The room spun. My dining room table. The one Robert and I bought at an estate sale 30 years ago. The one where we celebrated every holiday, every birthday, every milestone. "I'm calling the police," Harold said. "No, wait. I'm coming. I'm leaving right now." I didn't ask the nurses. I didn't wait for discharge papers. I grabbed my purse, threw on my coat over my hospital gown, and ran. The 4th port was still in my arm, covered with gauze and tape. I didn't care. The taxi ride felt like an eternity. My hands shook as I dialed Jason's number over and over. No answer. I called Vanessa, straight to voicemail. What was happening? Why would my son be removing furniture from my house? There had to be an explanation. Maybe he was storing things for me. Maybe he thought the house wasn't safe. Maybe, but deep down, I knew. Something was very, very wrong. When the taxi pulled up to my house, I saw the truck. A large U-Haul parked in my driveway, back doors open. I saw Jason and 2 other men I didn't recognize carrying boxes down my front steps. I paid the driver with shaking hands and walked up my driveway. My legs felt weak, but rage gave me strength. "Jason!" I shouted. He froze on the front steps, holding a box labeled kitchen. His face went white when he saw me. Actually white, like he'd seen a ghost. The box nearly slipped from his hands. "Mom, what are you? You're supposed to be in the hospital, and you're supposed to be checking on my house, not emptying it." I pushed past him and walked inside. The living room was nearly empty. My couch, gone. My coffee table, gone. The bookshelf Robert built by hand, gone. I walked to my bedroom, and that's when I truly understood the magnitude of what was happening. The walls were bare. My bed, my dresser, my nightstands. Everything was gone. Even the curtains had been taken down. I turned to face Jason, who had followed me inside. His face had gone from white to red. "Mom, I can explain." "Explain what? Explain why you're stealing from me?" I walked through my house room by room, documenting the devastation. My hands trembled as I opened empty closets, stared at blank walls where family photos once hung, ran my fingers along dusty rectangles on the hardwood floor where furniture had stood for decades. The kitchen was gutted. My grandmother's china cabinet, gone. The antique mixer I used every Christmas, gone. Even the small things. The things that shouldn't matter but somehow mattered most. My collection of recipe cards in Robert's handwriting, the ceramic birds I'd collected from every state we visited together, the quilt my mother made me when Jason was born, all of it. Gone. Jason stood in the hallway, shifting his weight from foot to foot. The two moving men had disappeared, probably waiting outside. Smart of them. "Mom, just listen. Where's Vanessa?" I asked, my voice cold. "She's at home. She didn't want to face me, you mean?" I turned to look at him directly. "How long have you been planning this?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is. Tell me why my house is empty. Tell me why you're loading my entire life into a truck. The house is too much for you." The words burst out of him like he'd been holding them back. "You're sick, Mom. You can't live alone anymore. We were going to move you into assisted living, somewhere you'd be safe, where people could take care of you." I laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound I didn't recognize as my own. Assisted living? Without asking me? Without even telling me? You wouldn't have agreed. You're too stubborn. So you decided to make the decision for me? To empty my house while I was in a hospital bed? "We're doing this for you." His voice rose, defensive, angry. "Someone has to be the adult here. Someone has to make the hard choices." "The adult?" My voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I'm your mother. This is my house. These are my belongings. You have no right." "Actually, I do." Those 3 words stopped me cold. Jason reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded document. "You gave me power of attorney 6 months ago, remember? When you updated your will? This gives me the legal right to make decisions about your property." I stared at the paper he held out. Something was wrong. I had updated my will 6 months ago, yes, but I specifically remembered my lawyer asking if I wanted to add anyone as power of attorney. I had said no. I had been very clear about that. "I never signed that." "Yes, you did. It's right here, notarized and everything." I snatched the paper from his hand and unfolded it. There was my name, my address, legal language about granting Jason Thompson full power of attorney over my medical, financial, and property decisions. And at the bottom, a signature that looked like mine. But it wasn't mine. The M was wrong. I always looped my M twice. This one only looped once. And the T in Thompson, I always crossed it with a slight upward curve. This one was straight. "This is a forgery," I said quietly. "Don't be ridiculous." "I never signed this document, Jason. This is fraud." His face changed. The defensive anger melted into something colder, harder. You're not thinking clearly, Mom. The medication, the stress. You're confused. I am not confused. I folded the paper and put it in my coat pocket. I'm calling my lawyer right now. Mom, don't make this difficult. Difficult? I pulled out my phone. You've emptied my house. You've forged legal documents. You've committed fraud, Jason, multiple felonies. And you're telling me not to make this difficult? He took a step toward me. Think about what you're doing. Do you really want to destroy your relationship with your only son? Do you want to involve lawyers, courts, make this ugly? You already made it ugly when you decided to steal from me. His jaw clenched. For a moment, I saw something in his eyes that frightened me, a coldness I'd never seen before. This wasn't my little boy anymore. This was a stranger. Fine, he said. Call whoever you want. But you're going to lose. You're sick. You're old, and everyone's going to believe you're not capable of managing your own affairs anymore. I'm your son. I'm trying to help you. Who do you think the courts will believe? He walked out, leaving me standing in my empty bedroom. I waited until I heard the truck drive away. Then I sat down on the floor because there was no furniture left, and I made a list in my head. First, document everything. Second, call my lawyer. Third, find out exactly what Jason and Vanessa had planned. They thought I was weak. They thought I was confused. They thought I would just accept this. They were wrong. I called my lawyer, Patricia Chen, from Harold's house. My hands were still shaking, but my voice was steady. Patricia had handled Robert's estate after he passed, and I trusted her completely. Maggie, I thought you were in the hospital. I was. I'm not anymore. I explained everything. The phone call, the empty house, the forged power of attorney. Patricia listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, there was a long silence. Do you still have the document? Yes, it's in my pocket. Don't let it out of your sight. I'm coming to you right now. Don't talk to Jason. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. I'll be there in 30 minutes. She arrived in 25. Harold let her in and quietly disappeared into his kitchen, giving us privacy in his living room. Patricia examined the power of attorney document under Harold's desk lamp, pulling out a magnifying glass from her briefcase. This is definitely not your signature, she said after several minutes. I have your authentic signature on file from the will paperwork. The differences are obvious once you know what to look for. Can we prove it's fake? Absolutely. We'll need a forensic document examiner, but yes, this is forgery, Maggie. Your son could face serious criminal charges. The words hung in the air. Criminal charges. My son. Part of me wanted to protect him, to make excuses. But the larger part, the part that had watched strangers carry away my life, stayed quiet. What do we do first? I asked. Patricia pulled out her laptop. First, we file an emergency injunction to prevent Jason from selling or disposing of any of your property. Second, we report the forgery to the police. Third, we get you back to the hospital so you're not discharged against medical advice. And fourth, she looked at me seriously, we prepare for this to get very nasty. Over the next 3 days, I learned exactly how deep the betrayal went. Patricia hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb. What he discovered made my stomach turn. Jason and Vanessa were drowning in debt. Credit cards maxed out, car payments missed, threatened with eviction from their apartment. Vanessa had been fired from her job 8 months ago for embezzlement, a fact Jason never mentioned to me. They needed money desperately. But it was worse than simple theft. Marcus found emails between Jason and a real estate developer named Richard Kovach. They'd been planning this for 4 months. The plan was to move me into the cheapest assisted living facility they could find, one with documented cases of neglect and abuse. Then sell my house to Kovacs Company for $425,000. Below market value, but quick and in cash. Jason would get the money through the fraudulent power of attorney. They'd split it. $200,000 to pay off their debts, $150,000 to invest in Vanessa's new business idea, and $75,000 for Mom's care. Though the facility they'd chosen only cost $2,400 a month. They'd also been forging my signature on other documents, utility transfers, mail forwarding. They'd even contacted my bank about transferring my accounts, but fortunately, the bank manager had called me directly to confirm, and I'd said no. That was 3 weeks ago. I'd thought it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a preview. "There's more," Marcus said during our meeting in Patricia's office. "I spoke with a nurse at St. Mary's, off the record. She said Jason had been asking questions about your mental state, your medications, whether you'd been confused or forgetful. He was building a case to declare you incompetent." I felt sick. He visited me. He held my hand. He said he loved me. "People do terrible things when they're desperate," Patricia said quietly. "The question is, how far do you want to take this?" I thought about my empty house, about my grandmother's china cabinet, about Robert's handwritten recipes, about the life Jason and Vanessa were trying to steal from me. "All the way," I said. "I want my property back. I want the forgery prosecuted, and I want everyone to know what they did." Patricia nodded. "Then we go to war." That evening, Jason called me. Harold had let me stay in his guest room, and I was sitting up in bed when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but Patricia had told me to keep the lines of communication open. Document everything. "Mom, where are you?" "I went to the hospital and they said you'd left." "I'm safe. Where's my furniture, Jason?" A pause. "It's in storage, for safekeeping." "Which storage facility?" "Mom, we need to talk about this rationally. You're not well. You need help." "I have help. I have a lawyer. Her name is Patricia Chen. She'll be contacting you tomorrow with a list of demands." The silence that followed was different, colder. "You hired a lawyer?" His voice changed, became harder. "That's a mistake, Mom. A big mistake. You don't want to do this." "I didn't do anything." "You did. You forged documents. You stole my property. You committed fraud. I'm trying to help you." "No, Jason, you're trying to rob me. There's a difference." I hung up. 10 minutes later, Vanessa called. I let it go to voicemail. Then Jason called again. Voicemail. Then text messages started flooding in. "Mom, please don't do this. You're destroying our family. We can work this out. Don't involve lawyers. You're making a huge mistake." Then finally, "You'll regret this." I saved every message. Patricia had taught me well. Patricia filed the emergency injunction on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, the court had granted a temporary restraining order preventing Jason from selling, moving, or disposing of any of my property. By Tuesday, we had a court date scheduled for the following week. On Wednesday, the police came to interview me. Detective Sarah Reeves was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She sat across from me in Patricia's conference room and asked me to tell her everything. I showed her the forged power of attorney. She took photos of it, then sealed it in an evidence bag. "How long has your son had access to your house?" she asked. "He's had a key for years. He used to help with maintenance when my husband was sick." "And you never signed any documents giving him power of attorney?" "Never. I specifically declined that option when I updated my will." Detective Reeves made notes. "We'll need to interview your lawyer, the one who handled your will, and the notary whose stamp appears on this document. If it's fraudulent, as it appears to be, Your son is looking at forgery charges, identity theft, and potentially theft of property valued over $10,000, which is a felony. The words should have hurt more. Instead, I felt numb. On Thursday morning, I returned to my house with a police escort. The court order required Jason to return my keys and stay at least 500 feet away from me. The house was still mostly empty, but at least it was mine again. Harold helped me buy an air mattress and some basic supplies. Patricia had frozen my bank accounts temporarily to prevent any unauthorized access, so I was living on cash. It felt surreal, like being a refugee in my own life. That's when they came. Friday evening, just after sunset. I was sitting on my air mattress, eating Chinese takeout from a paper container, when I heard the knock. Loud, aggressive, demanding. I looked through the peephole. Jason and Vanessa. My first instinct was to call the police. They were violating the restraining order. But something made me pause. I wanted to hear what they had to say. I wanted to look them in the eyes. I opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. "You have 60 seconds before I call the police," I said. "You're violating a court order." "Mom, please." Jason's face was desperate. "You have to stop this. You have to drop the charges." I didn't press charges. The district attorney did. Once fraud is reported, it's out of my hands. You could tell them you made a mistake. Vanessa's voice was sharp, panicked. You could say you were confused, that you did sign the papers and forgot. But I didn't forget. And I'm not confused. Mom, listen to me. Jason's voice dropped lower. If you go through with this, I will go to prison. Do you understand that? Your son will be a convicted felon. Is that what you want? What I wanted was for my son not to rob me. We weren't robbing you, Vanessa shouted. We were helping you. You're old, you're sick, you can't take care of yourself. I managed just fine until you two decided to steal my life. Jason slammed his hand against the doorframe. I flinched, but didn't step back. You don't understand what you're doing. You're ruining everything. We needed that money. Then you should have asked me for help instead of forging documents and emptying my house while I was in a hospital bed. You wouldn't have given it to us, Vanessa screamed. You're selfish. You're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars while we're drowning, and you won't help your own son. The truth of what they thought of me hit like a slap. I wasn't a person to them. I was an obstacle, a resource to be exploited. Get off my property, I said quietly. Mom, get off my property. Jason's face twisted with rage. Fine. You want to play it this way? Fine. But don't come crying to me when you're alone and sick and no one cares about you anymore. You're making yourself alone, Mom. You're choosing to be alone. I'd rather be alone than stolen from. Vanessa grabbed Jason's arm. Come on, she's not worth it. Let her rot in this empty house by herself. Let her die alone. They left. I closed the door, locked it, engaged the deadbolt, and then slid down to sit on the floor. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. But underneath the fear was something else. Satisfaction. I had stood my ground. I hadn't crumbled. I called Patricia. They came to the house, both of them. I have it recorded. I'd started my phone's voice recorder before opening the door. Excellent. That's another violation. I'll contact the police. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every car passing outside made me peek through the curtains. But I didn't call Jason. I didn't apologize. I didn't back down. The next morning, Harold brought me breakfast and sat with me while I ate. You okay, Maggie? I'm tired, I admitted. I'm so tired. You should rest. Take a few days. Patricia has everything under control. You don't have to fight every battle yourself. He was right. I spent the weekend sleeping, reading old books Harold lent me, and trying not to think about the court date looming ahead. I needed to gather my strength for what was coming next. On Monday morning, a letter arrived at Harold's house, where I was still staying, while my home remained mostly empty. It was hand-delivered by a messenger service. Harold brought it to me while I was drinking coffee in his kitchen. The envelope was expensive, thick cream paper with my name written in elegant calligraphy. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter from Vanessa. Dear Maggie, I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few days, and I realize how things must look from your perspective. I want you to know that Jason and I never meant to hurt you. We were genuinely worried about your health and your ability to manage everything alone. I know the way we handled things was wrong. We should have talked to you first. We were panicked, scared, and we made bad decisions. But please understand, we did it out of love. I'm writing to ask if we can meet. Just the two of us, woman to woman. No lawyers, no police, no Jason. I think if we talk honestly, we can find a way to fix this without destroying the family. Jason is heartbroken, Maggie. He barely sleeps. He cries every night. He's terrified of losing his mother. Whatever you think of me, please don't punish him like this. He made mistakes, but he's still your son. I know a wonderful therapist who specializes in family mediation. Her name is Dr. Rebecca Walsh. If you agree to meet with her, just once, I promise we'll return everything, every piece of furniture, every item. We'll make this right. All we ask is that you drop the criminal charges. Give us a chance to prove we can earn back your trust. Please, Maggie, let's not let this destroy our family. With love and hope, Vanessa. I read the letter 3 times. Each time, I felt the manipulation more clearly. The appeals to emotion, the guilt trips, the false promises wrapped in pretty words. Harold watched me from across the table. Bad news? They're trying a different approach. I handed him the letter. He read it, his expression darkening. This is manipulation, Maggie. Pure manipulation. I know. I took the letter back and folded it carefully. But some people might fall for it. You're not going to meet with her, are you? I smiled. It was the first genuine smile I'd felt in days. Harold, do you think I'm stupid? Never. I just wanted to make sure. I called Patricia and read her the letter over the phone. Interesting timing, she said. The preliminary hearing is in 3 days. They're trying to get you to drop charges before it happens. Classic intimidation disguised as reconciliation. What should I do? Nothing. Don't respond. They're desperate, which means we're winning. Stay the course. That afternoon, Jason tried a different tactic. He posted on Facebook a long, emotional post about how he was being falsely accused by his mentally ill mother, who was suffering from hospital-induced delirium. He painted himself as the dutiful son trying to help his aging mother, only to be repaid with cruelty and legal action. Within an hour, I received calls from 3 different friends. Maggie, what's going on? Jason says you're sick and confused. I told them the truth. I sent them copies of the forged document, the police report, the restraining order. I explained everything calmly, factually, without emotion. By evening, Jason had deleted the Facebook post. Several mutual friends had commented calling him out, demanding answers, expressing their support for me. His strategy had backfired spectacularly. But the attempts didn't stop. Tuesday morning, I received a call from Jason's former college roommate, Mark, whom I'd always liked. Mrs. Thompson, I hope you don't mind me calling. Jason gave me your number. Of course. How are you, Mark? I'm well, thank you. Listen, I heard about the situation between you and Jason. I'm really sorry you're going through this. Thank you. Jason asked me to call you. He's really struggling, Mrs. Thompson. I've never seen him like this. He told me about the misunderstanding with the house, and it wasn't a misunderstanding, Mark. He forged legal documents and emptied my house without my permission. A pause. He said you might say that. He said the medications from your surgery have been affecting your memory. I took a deep breath. I liked Mark. I didn't want to be harsh with him. Mark, I appreciate your concern, but you're being used. Jason is asking you to pressure me into dropping criminal charges against him. That's witness tampering, and it could get you in legal trouble. I'd hate to see that happen. Another pause. Longer this time. Oh, I didn't realize. I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson. I thought I was helping. I know you did. Jason is very good at making people think they're helping. After Mark, there were 2 more calls. A distant cousin, a woman from my old church group, both with the same script. Jason is suffering. Can't you forgive him? Families should stick together. Each time I stayed calm. I explained the facts. I didn't get angry, didn't raise my voice, didn't engage emotionally. Cold facts. Clear evidence. By Wednesday evening, the calls stopped. That's when my real support network emerged. Harold, of course, who let me stay in his house and brought me meals and sat with me when the silence got too heavy. Patricia, who worked tirelessly, often late into the night, building our case. Detective Reeves, who called to update me on the investigation and treated me with respect and dignity. But also others. My friend Linda from the library volunteer group drove 2 hours to visit me, bringing a casserole and a fierce hug. I heard what Jason did. That boy should be ashamed of himself. My neighbor Susan, who'd been traveling during the incident, came over as soon as she got back. Maggie, if you need anything at all, you call me, day or night. Even people I barely knew reached out. The woman who ran the local bookstore sent flowers with a note. Strong women don't give up. We're rooting for you. I wasn't alone. Despite Jason's threats, despite his attempts to isolate me, I had people who believed me, who supported me, who stood by me. On Thursday night, I moved back into my house. It was still mostly empty, but it was mine. Harold helped me set up the air mattress in my bedroom. Susan brought over a card table and 2 folding chairs. Linda donated some dishes and a small television. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I stood in my living room looking at the bare walls, and I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. Tomorrow was the preliminary hearing. Tomorrow, Jason would have to face the consequences of what he'd done, and I was ready. The night before the preliminary hearing, they came again. It was late, almost 10 p.m. I was getting ready for bed, setting my alarm for the early morning court appearance, when I heard the knock. Gentle this time, almost apologetic. I looked through the peephole. Jason and Vanessa, both dressed nicely. Jason was holding flowers. Vanessa had what looked like a bakery box. My first instinct was to call the police immediately. They were violating the restraining order again. But something made me hesitate. I wanted to see what they would do. I wanted to see how far they would go. I opened the door but left the screen door locked. You're not supposed to be here. I know, Mom. Jason's voice was soft, humble. I know, but please, just give us 5 minutes. That's all we're asking. 5 minutes to apologize properly before tomorrow. You can apologize through your lawyer. Mom, please. His eyes were red, like he'd been crying. I'm begging you. Let us say what we need to say. After that, if you want to call the police, fine. But please, just 5 minutes. I'm your son. Against my better judgment. And I knew it was against my better judgment. I unlatched the screen door. 5 minutes. You stay in the doorway. You don't come inside. Thank you. Jason handed me the flowers, pink roses, my favorites. How did he remember that? These are for you, a peace offering. Vanessa held out the bakery box. Lemon cake from that bakery you love downtown. I know it's your favorite. I took the offerings, feeling manipulated but not sure how to refuse without seeming unnecessarily cruel. I set them on the floor beside me. Talk, I said. Jason took a deep breath. Mom, I've had time to think about everything that happened. Really think about it. And I realize now how wrong I was. Not just wrong, horrible. I betrayed your trust. I violated your privacy. I stole from you. He paused, his voice breaking slightly. There's no excuse for what I did. None. I was desperate and scared, and I convinced myself I was helping you when really I was just helping myself. Vanessa nodded, her eyes also shimmering with tears. We both were. Maggie, I'm so ashamed. I convinced Jason that we were doing the right thing. I pushed him into it. If you're going to blame anyone, blame me. I blame you both, I said evenly. You should, Jason said quickly. You absolutely should. We deserve whatever punishment comes our way. But Mom, please understand. Losing you is worse than any legal consequence. I'd rather go to prison than lose my mother forever. He stepped closer to the threshold, and I instinctively stepped back. I'm not asking you to drop the charges, he continued. I know I don't have the right to ask that, but I'm asking you to let us make things right first. Let us return everything, every single item. Let us prove that we understand what we did wrong, and then, whatever happens legally, at least we'll have tried to fix the damage. It sounded reasonable. It almost sounded sincere. Where's my furniture now? I asked. In a storage unit in Jersey City. We can give you the key right now. All of it is there, untouched. We didn't sell anything, I swear. You were planning to sell it. We were, Vanessa admitted, but we didn't. When you filed the injunction, we stopped everything. Because you had to legally, not because you wanted to. That's not fair, Mom. You don't know what's in our hearts. Something in his tone shifted, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. The humility was slipping, revealing something harder underneath. I know you forged documents to steal from me, I said. That's what I know. Jason's jaw clenched. We've apologized. We've brought you flowers and your favorite cake. We're trying to make amends. What more do you want? I want you to accept responsibility without conditions. I want you to stop trying to manipulate me into dropping charges. I want you to leave me alone. Manipulate you? Vanessa's voice rose. We drove all the way here to apologize, and you accuse us of manipulation. Because that's what this is. This isn't an apology. This is a last-ditch attempt to avoid consequences before tomorrow's hearing. Jason's expression changed completely. The mask dropped. You know what, Mom? You're right. This is a last-ditch attempt. Because tomorrow, you're going to get up in front of a judge and destroy your son's life. Over furniture, over money, over things. Over trust, I corrected. Over betrayal. Oh, please! Vanessa's pretense of civility shattered. You want to talk about betrayal? You're the one betraying family. You're choosing lawyers and police over your own blood. What kind of mother does that? The kind whose son forged her signature and robbed her. Jason slammed his hand against the doorframe, making me jump. We were trying to help you. You're too stubborn and proud to admit you need help. Someone had to make hard decisions. You made criminal decisions. Because you left us no choice. His face was red now, veins bulging in his neck. You sit in this house on your pile of money while your son is drowning. You could have helped us, but you were too selfish. I didn't know you needed help. You never asked. We shouldn't have to ask. You should have offered. That's what parents do. Parents also don't steal from their children, I said quietly. And children don't forge documents to rob their parents. So I guess we're both disappointed. Vanessa grabbed Jason's arm. Come on, she doesn't care. She never cared. Let her go to court tomorrow. Let her watch her son get arrested. Let her die alone in this house. But Jason wasn't done. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to something cold and threatening. You think you're so smart, Mom? You think you're winning? Tomorrow, my lawyer is going to argue that you're mentally incompetent. We have evidence. The hospital records showing your medication side effects, statements from people who say you've been confused and forgetful. By the time we're done, the judge won't believe a word you say. Then why are you here begging me to drop charges? He straightened up, realizing his mistake. This isn't over, Mom. Not by a long shot. You want war? Fine. We'll give you war. And when you're sitting alone in some state facility because the court declares you incompetent, remember? You chose this. They left. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there shaking. They'd shown me their true faces. All the tears, all the apologies, all the talk of making amends, it was all theater. The moment I didn't give them what they wanted, the masks came off. I was afraid. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Their threat about declaring me incompetent was terrifying. Could they actually do that? Could they twist things enough to make me look confused? But underneath the fear was something stronger. Determination. They'd tried kindness. They'd tried guilt. They'd tried threats. They'd thrown everything at me. And I was still standing. Tomorrow I'd stand in front of a judge. Tomorrow the truth would come out. Tomorrow they'd face consequences. I picked up the flowers and the cake and threw them in the trash. Then I called Patricia and told her everything. Good, she said when I finished. Let them think they can intimidate you. Let them think they have leverage. Tomorrow we'll show them they don't. I went to bed and, surprisingly, slept well. The preliminary hearing was held in a small courtroom with fluorescent lights and wooden benches that creaked when you moved. I arrived early with Patricia, wearing the navy dress I'd worn to Robert's funeral, the only formal outfit I still had access to. Jason and Vanessa arrived with their lawyer, Martin Dreyfus, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he charged by the minute. Jason wouldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa stared at me with undisguised hatred. The judge was a black woman in her 50s, named Judge Constance Williams. She had the air of someone who had seen everything and wasn't easily fooled. This is a preliminary hearing to determine if there's sufficient evidence to proceed with criminal charges of forgery, identity theft, and grand larceny, Judge Williams said. Mr. Dreyfus, your client has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Present your opening statement. Dreyfus stood. Your Honor, this case is a tragic misunderstanding between a loving son and his ailing mother. Mrs. Margaret Thompson recently underwent surgery and has been on powerful medications that have affected her cognitive function. In his concern for her welfare, my client, Jason Thompson, made efforts to ensure her safety and the security of her property. Unfortunately, due to her compromised mental state, Mrs. Thompson has misinterpreted these loving actions as theft. My client has documentation showing that Mrs. Thompson has exhibited signs of confusion and memory loss. She left the hospital against medical advice. She's been staying with neighbors instead of in her own home. These are not the actions of someone thinking clearly. He paused for effect. We believe Mrs. Thompson needs help, not legal proceedings. We're asking the court to order a psychiatric evaluation to determine her competency before continuing with these baseless charges. I felt my hands grip the arms of my chair. Patricia put her hand on my arm gently. "Wait," she whispered. Judge Williams turned to Patricia. "Ms. Chen, your response?" Patricia stood, and I was struck by how calm she appeared. "Your Honor, the defense's characterization is not only false, but offensive. Mrs. Thompson is a sharp, articulate woman who left the hospital when she received a call that her son was actively emptying her house without permission." She pulled out a folder. "I have here the forged power of attorney document that Mr. Jason Thompson used to claim legal authority over his mother's property. I also have documentation from Mrs. Thompson's lawyer who drafted her will, a lawyer who will testify that Mrs. Thompson specifically declined to grant power of attorney to anyone." Patricia laid out several documents on the table. "Additionally, I have statements from neighbors who witnessed Mr. Thompson loading furniture into a moving truck. I have emails between Mr. Thompson and a real estate developer discussing the sale of Mrs. Thompson's house, and I have bank records showing that Mr. Thompson and his wife Vanessa Thompson are in significant debt. $147,000 in credit cards, auto loans, and other liabilities. This isn't a case of a confused elderly woman. This is a case of financial exploitation by family members who saw their mother as an ATM machine." Judge Williams examined the documents. "Mr. Dreyfus, do you have evidence of Mrs. Thompson's supposed cognitive impairment?" "We have hospital records showing that she was prescribed standard post-operative pain medication," Patricia interrupted. "Medication that has no documented side effects related to confusion or memory loss in Mrs. Thompson's case. I have a statement from her surgeon, Dr. Michael Bradley, confirming that she was mentally sound throughout her treatment." Judge Williams looked at Jason. "Mr. Thompson, please stand." Jason stood slowly. Vanessa grabbed his hand. "Did you remove property from your mother's house without her explicit permission?" Jason opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his lawyer. "Answer the question, Mr. Thompson." Yes, Your Honor, but I was trying to help her. She wasn't capable of—" "Did you have legal power of attorney at the time you removed the property?" "I had a document." "Did you have legal power of attorney granted by your mother?" A long pause. "No, Your Honor." Judge Williams held up the forged document. "Is this your mother's authentic signature?" Jason looked at Dreyfus. The lawyer whispered something. Jason's face went white. "Mr. Thompson, I asked you a question." I don't know. I thought—" "You don't know if you forged your mother's signature on a legal document?" Judge Williams's voice was sharp now. "Or you do know, and you're hoping I'll believe you don't?" Vanessa stood up suddenly. "This is ridiculous. She's our mother. We were trying to protect her." "Ma'am, sit down." "No, this whole thing is a joke. She's vindictive and petty, and she's trying to ruin our lives." "Ma'am, sit down now, or I'll hold you in contempt." Vanessa sat, but her face was flushed with rage. Judge Williams turned back to Jason. "Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want a direct answer. Did you forge your mother's signature on this power of attorney document?" The courtroom was silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. Jason's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Yes." The word hung in the air like a bomb. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Please speak clearly." "Yes, Your Honor, I forged it." Vanessa made a sound like a wounded animal. Dreyfus closed his eyes. Judge Williams set down the document. "Mr. Thompson, you've just confessed to forgery in open court. Do you understand what you've done?" "I was desperate. We needed—" "I don't want to hear your excuses." She looked at the prosecutor, a young woman named Assistant District Attorney Michelle Park. "ADA Park, what's the state's recommendation?" "The state requests that Mr. Thompson be remanded into custody immediately pending trial. He's admitted to forgery, and we believe he's a flight risk given the severity of the charges and the evidence of financial desperation." Dreyfus jumped up. "Your Honor, that's excessive. My client has no criminal history. He has ties to the community. He's confessed to forging legal documents to steal from his elderly mother," Judge Williams said flatly. "That shows both criminal intent and a profound lack of moral character. Bail is set at $50,000. Mr. Thompson, you're remanded to custody. Bailiff. No, Vanessa screamed. You can't do this. She's lying. She's making it all up. Two bailiffs moved toward Jason. He stood there, frozen as they handcuffed him. Mom, he said, looking at me for the first time. His eyes were filled with tears. Mom, please. Don't let them do this. Please. I looked at him. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised and loved and sacrificed for. And I felt nothing but a deep, cold certainty. You did this to yourself, I said quietly. They led him away. Vanessa was screaming, being restrained by another bailiff. Dreyfus was trying to calm her down, failing miserably. Judge Williams banged her gavel. Order. This hearing is adjourned. Mrs. Thompson, you're free to go. Your property will be released from the storage facility within 24 hours. A full trial date will be set within 60 days. She looked at me directly. I'm sorry you had to go through this, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor. Outside the courtroom, Patricia hugged me. You did it, Maggie. You won. I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt exhausted. But I also felt something else. Vindicated. Detective Reeves met us in the hallway. Mrs. Thompson, we'll need you to come to the station to give a formal statement. But I wanted you to know, we're also investigating Mrs. Vanessa Thompson for conspiracy. She was part of this from the beginning. I nodded. When do you need me? Tomorrow is fine. Take today. Rest. You've earned it. I went home to my empty house, but it felt different now. It felt like mine again. The trial took place 6 weeks later. In that time, my house slowly became a home again. Harold and Susan helped me move everything back from storage. My grandmother's china cabinet, Robert's recipe cards, my mother's quilt. Everything returned to its rightful place. Patricia had prepared me thoroughly. We reviewed every document, every timeline, every piece of evidence. The forensic examiner confirmed the power of attorney was forged, and forged badly. The notary whose stamp appeared on the document testified she'd never notarized anything for Jason Thompson. Her stamp had been stolen from her office 3 months earlier, long before my surgery. This wasn't panic. This was planning. My lawyer testified that I had explicitly declined to grant power of attorney to anyone. She was very firm about maintaining her independence. The real estate developer, Richard Kovach, testified under immunity about meetings with Jason discussing the quick sale of my house. Jason had told him I was in a facility and wouldn't be involved. Dr. Bradley testified I had been completely mentally competent throughout my treatment. Mrs. Thompson was sharp, asked intelligent questions, understood everything. Her medications had no cognitive side effects. Jason's defense was weak. Dreyfus tried to argue Jason had genuinely believed he was helping me, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged signature, the emails, the debt, the lies. Under cross-examination, Jason fell apart. Mr. Thompson, the notary stamp was stolen 3 months before your mother's surgery. That's not panic. That's planning. I didn't steal the stamp. Then who did? Your wife? Silence. Were you aware your wife had been fired for embezzlement? His face went white. That was never proven. It was proven enough for her termination. What would you call forging documents, removing property without authorization, and planning to sell your mother's house without her knowledge? Jason had no answer. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Judge Williams didn't mince words at sentencing. Mr. Thompson, you betrayed the person who gave you life. You exploited her when she was vulnerable. You lied, you forged, you stole. When caught, you tried to paint yourself as the victim. I'm sentencing you to 4 years in state prison, followed by 5 years probation. You're ordered to pay full restitution totaling $47,350. You are ordered to have no contact with Mrs. Thompson unless she initiates it. Jason stood shaking. Vanessa sobbed in the gallery. Judge Williams turned to Vanessa. Mrs. Thompson, please stand. You've been charged as a co-conspirator. This court takes elder abuse very seriously. If convicted, you will face significant prison time. Vanessa collapsed, hysterical. Jason looked back at me one last time. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. 3 months later, Vanessa pleaded guilty to conspiracy and received 3 years in prison. Their apartment was foreclosed. Their car repossessed. Everything they'd built on debt and lies collapsed. I felt no joy in their suffering, but no guilt either. They had made their choices. Now they lived with the consequences. I kept my house, my furniture, my independence. I finished treatment and was declared cancer-free. I returned to volunteering. I had Sunday dinners with Harold and Susan. I rebuilt my life on my terms. And I never looked back. 6 months after the trial, my life transformed completely. The house became a sanctuary again. I repainted, planted roses, reclaimed every corner. But the biggest change was social. The community rallied around me instead of judging me. Linda organized a welcome dinner with 23 people. Susan nominated me for the community board. I won by a landslide. The local newspaper ran my story. Grandmother stands up to family fraud. It went viral. Strangers wrote thanking me for speaking out. I started a support group for elder abuse survivors. I created a scholarship fund in Robert's name. I gave talks at senior centers. I traveled to the Grand Canyon. I took up ballroom dancing with Harold. I was 68, cancer-free, and finally living for myself. I wrote Jason one letter. I don't hate you, but that bridge is burned. Goodbye. He never replied. Vanessa served 2.5 years in a violent facility. Her family disowned her. After release, she worked at a gas station, living in poverty, her reputation destroyed. I felt no satisfaction in their suffering, but no guilt either. I'd lost a son, but gained myself, and that was the best trade I'd ever made. Looking back now, I understand what that nightmare taught me. Family isn't sacred just because it's family. Love without respect is manipulation. Trust must be earned, even from your own children. If you see the signs, secrecy, pressure, someone trying to control your finances or life, speak up. Get help. Don't let guilt silence you. I'm Maggie Thompson. I survived, and you can too. What would you have done in my place? Would you have had the strength to press charges against your own child? Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find their voice.